Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much for this award. It's very meaningful, particularly coming from you. We've known each other since I was a graduate student and you were at the Bud Company. And of course, I've been delighted to follow your career to DTE and beyond, ultimately at Kaiser Permanente, where I believe you hold what may be the most important labor relations job in our country. So knowing you, this award has great meaning to me. And of course, if we were live, you would be handing me the award. But instead, I think I have to do show and tell and hold it up and say, thank you, Dennis. Thank you for this award. A LERA Lifetime Achievement Award begins, of course, with reflecting on my life with LERA. In this case, believe it or not, it begins before I was born. I'm told that the Philadelphia chapter of what was then the IRRA, the Industrial Relations Research Association, actually began in 1955 at my parents' kitchen table, which was a year before I was born. Now, I know some of you are quickly doing some calculations, but let's fast forward to my first involvement in the Philadelphia chapter, which was as a Cornell undergrad coming home for holidays and attending local chapter meetings with my parents. After I graduated in 1978, I worked as a managing editor with Labor Relations Press in Philadelphia and officially joined the Philadelphia chapter. Shortly thereafter, I went to work for the Michigan Quality of Work-Life Council in Michigan and joined the Detroit chapter. Later, in the mid-1980s, I came to MIT in graduate school and joined the Boston chapter. Having now come back to Boston, I've rejoined the chapter, but this history makes me, if you will, a genuine local chapter mixed breed. Now, it was in graduate school that I began what may be an unbroken string of attending national meetings. And as I was reflecting on this award, I went back to my first appearance in the proceedings, which turns out to have been in 1975 in what was then a spring meeting. They had spring and winter meetings. And so I have a copy here of the proceedings with Everett Caslow on the cover. He was the president that year. And the article that I wrote had kind of an immodest title for a graduate student. It was Reconceiving the Web of Labor Management Relations. Rereading it, I see that the message around the need for more collaborative institutional arrangements between labor and management is still fresh today, which either means one of two things. Either it was forward thinking or I haven't changed my thinking in all these years. As a graduate student, I attended the Academy of Management Doctoral Consortium, and it seemed like a good idea, but to put it simply, those were not my people. So the next year, along with some students from around the country, we organized the LERA Doctoral Consortium. There had been some doctoral meetings previously, but the current format of a student-led consortium has continued to this day, and it's one of my proudest contributions to LERA. Another one that I'd like to highlight is the launch of the industry councils, which, along with the sections, have proven particularly important in our COVID response. I'd also like to say that I was proud to be part of the renaming of IRRA into LERA, which is, of course, a name we also adopted at Illinois when I was dean there. And I was even in Australia at the World Congress in 2009 when the IIRA became ILERA. So 16 and 14 are my new favorite numbers. It was 16 years ago in 2004 that my father, Walter Gershenfeld, also received the Lifetime Achievement Award. So I think we're the first father-child or parent-child pair to have this happen. As it happens, 14 is also an important number. In 2009, I served as president of LERA, which was exactly 14 years after my dad was president in 1995. 2009 was also the year that my mother, Gladys Gershenfeld, received the Practitioner Award. So this award really very much has to do with family for me. And of course, I am sad that my parents are not here to see it. And as many of you know, if they were, they would be telling everybody about it afterwards. So in reflecting on family, please allow me to do a brief unpaid promotional announcement for the Gladys and Walter Gershenfeld Diversity Fund. My brothers, Alan and Neil, and myself set up this fund initially to advance publications, but we rebranded it to focus on advancing underrepresented voices in LERA meetings and activities. My parents would be very supportive of this. Mom, as many of you know, was one of the first female arbitrators and was always a mentor for women coming into the profession. Most of you may not know that my dad's doctoral dissertation in the early 1960s was one of the first studies to document what we would call institutional racism in employment relations. He was studying the city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which at the time had a Black unemployment rate of 12.4%, and the white unemployment rate was 4 times lower. So his dissertation basically documented the institutional barriers that kept unemployment high in the Black community, even in a prosperous community. So this fund is particularly important today, and it complements the work of the newly established LERA Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and I encourage you to contribute to this important cause. As I wrap up, I would like to thank Tom Kochen, Robert McCursey, Michael Piori, Lisa Lynch, and all of my other mentors in graduate school. I'd like to appreciate my colleagues from MSU, MIT, Illinois, Australia, and Brandeis with its amazing commitment to social justice. I would like to share this award with my wife, Susan, my life partner, and our sons, Gabriel and Aaron, and their partners, my brothers and their families, and the many friends and families that have been part of my lifetime with LERA. Of course, this is not the end of my lifetime with LERA. It's traditional with these awards to say this, but I particularly want to emphasize that I'm not just looking back, I'm looking forward. We face major challenges in society, not just with the pandemic, but many challenges in labor and employment relations. And they call for the need for more agile and more effective institutions in society. This is the work looking ahead in the months, years, and decades to come. And so it's with this work in mind that I'm delighted to accept this award. And in doing so, I'd like to thank Dennis, and I'd like to thank LERA. Thank you.